Hey, everyone. One thing is for certain, and two things are for double certain. It is the most wonderful time of the week. It is Systems Lab Live. We are back in the building. I'm excited. We are back. This is a back to back to back. Okay. And so I'm excited because we are talking about 2025 digital trends and tools. The question that I have for you all is, how are you skilling up? How are you future proofing your career, your actual role in the project management industry? How is that? How are you crafting that? How are you shaping that? What are the ways in which you are doing that? What steps are you taking? And so what I'm doing last week and today is I am just breaking down tools and trends, and this is honestly from my perspective. I've done tons of research, and I'm going to be creating some content around that, about what the streets are saying. But you're getting my perspective on what it is that we as project managers should be looking at. And today we have three outstanding topics, and I'm excited. The first thing that I want you to do is definitely in the comments say, hey, how you doing? What's going on? Tell me what project you're working on. What are you wrapping up? What are you starting? What are you looking forward to in this holiday season as it is upon us? Hello, Turkey Day. Come on. Hello, gratitude. Hello, I don't want a lot for Christmas. Some people are just holding themselves so that they don't play that Christmas music. But shout out to those who started on November 1st and said, we just not playing any games. I don't know where we at, but we on this. I don't want a lot for Christmas. And they just were like, let's just dive right into it. So I'm excited to be talking about three areas that I believe are going to be game changers for us as project managers, project leaders in the workplace, in the workforce, in the entrepreneurship space, regardless of your industry. Here's what we're looking at: managing remote and hybrid teams, emotional intelligence. Hello. And last but not least, we're going to talk about what does it mean to expand beyond the traditional project management role. Ooh, who's thinking about this critically? Who's thinking about this? Because I believe that we have to, when I mean we, meaning the industry, we have to make sure that we are messaging what exactly the project manager role looks like in 2025, because it's not your traditional role of like, oh, okay, well, they're just in this IT field or they're in finance, right? We are seeing it everywhere. Let me not get too ahead of myself because we have notes, okay? We have particular talking points and whatnot. What I want you to do also, as well as in the let's see, the link tree, and also if you're on YouTube, what I'd love for you all to do is go and subscribe to my Substack. Now, let me tell you something. Implementing a brand new process. I don't care if you've been managing projects for a while. I don't care, if you're like, I'm an old vet, I know what I know. There still takes discipline in implementing something new. So I am in the early stages of getting a rhythm for my Substack. Excuse me. In fact, I'm gonna do a little video for my Substack community, and I'm gonna be committed to a writing schedule because I believe that there's just so many stories, so much to do. And so I go back and forth between video and writing. And sometimes I just want to talk and talk, right? But I realize that, you know, y'all are not here to just hear me talk. But there's just so many stories I want to share. And so I'm getting more concrete and more strategic about it all. So my goal is to be writing to my Substack family about, let's see, 3 times a week. That's what our goal is. 3 times a week, and just come with some tips. Come with what's happening in my week, telling you all some stories. But I'm loving that we got 4 people in the building that are watching. Make sure you just put a comment or two. I like that. Oh, we're back in the building. Kit Kat Nat 9. Thanks for it. It's been a while. It's been a while. Substack is gaining traction, and I am working my way to be consistent in that area. Okay, so the first thing that I want to talk about is we're going to be talking about this really good topic, which is managing hybrid and remote teams. This is something where, ever since the pandemic happened, and it has from the pandemic, excuse me, we have been in an environment where we've just been working remotely. Okay. And now we are back in the office, or so we think. I think there's going to be about 32 million people. That's what the reports say. 32 million people that are going to be working remotely in 2025, which means that now more than ever, managing remote and hybrid teams, how you do that, what are the successes, what are the particular strategies that are needed to do this and do it well and do it efficiently. And so one thing that I think is really important to note, and I actually have something coming out shortly about this, is an ebook about it, and I'm excited about it. I'm going to share with you some tips, just even for just a personal note, even professionally. I have had the privilege of leading out teams and leading them strictly remotely. So I have quite enough to say about this situation. And I reason why I call it a situation, because it can be a situation, if you know what I mean. But on a more, as we kind of walk through these points, I've collected a lot of information about how to effectively manage remote and hybrid teams. And you're going to hear one of my favorite topics within a particular subtopic, which is team communication. But before we get to that, I do want to talk about the 3 questions you need to ensure that you are asking yourself and asking your team when it comes to managing remote and hybrid teams. Number 1 is, how are you going to organize the work? So that's the question. How are you going to organize the work? Where will you communicate about the work, and where is the work stored? So what does that mean exactly? Okay, so these are the 3 questions. Where are you going to, or how are you going to organize the work? And so this is going to be really important to note, because when we talk about how we're going to organize the work, you want to think strategically about, okay, what are some of the ways in which I need to be thinking about where are the tasks and activities, where are they going to live, how am I going to keep track of the projects, how am I, to the second question, where am I going to communicate about status updates, project updates, team meetings, all the like. And then lastly is, where is this information going to be stored? What I mean by that is, I am huge on knowledge management. I was just in a meeting today where I was talking with a group of leaders. And one of the things that I brought up was, hey, let's think about, for the team, what does it look like to have a system, a knowledge management system that organizes presentations, that organizes memos, that organizes decisions that are being made, trackers, all this stuff. And so it may seem kind of daunting to think about it, because we're like, wow, you mean organize people's presentations, memos, meetings, whatever is being created, like any type of created work product, to actually have a system to tag it so that you can find it, I think is something that we need to start like now. Like you should think about that right now, even if you don't have it, right? I think that is super important for you to think through. So that's part of managing remote teams, like these 3 questions that I think everyone should be asking themselves. How are you going to organize the work? Okay. And so we're really looking at, how do I organize my projects, my tasks? How are they assigned? How do I keep track of it? Those are the types of things, like those are the types of questions you should be thinking about. Where will you communicate about the work? I'm always going to go with Slack and or Now. ClickUp has ClickUp Chat, but to be quite honest, it's more project based. I do believe that you need to take communication out of the actual tool itself, centralize it within Slack, because therefore you have all these team updates. I, I'm telling you, I'm a huge fan of Slack and Slack like tools. Now, I don't know what is a good Slack competitor. Do we have one yet? Do we have one yet? I'm team Slack. I was gonna do a quick search right now. Slack competitor. I don't well, Microsoft Teams, I guess that would be one. Microsoft Teams, I guess that would be one. But I do not have a I don't have a good pulse on who has who would take over Slack's reign. I don't know. But my point is this. And those that are utilizing Microsoft, whether you're in corporate or maybe perhaps you're an entrepreneur and you're like, I just like all Microsoft products. Cool. Microsoft Teams and that whole Microsoft suite will be super helpful. Like with Teams, you can have folders and you can create teams based on projects, and you can, add all these different types and intersect all these different types of tools. You can create SharePoint pages. There's a lot that you can do that can really help to organize your work, centralize your work, discuss your work, and everything. And lastly, which is just what I talked about a little bit ago, which is that knowledge management piece, which is where do you store the information? So if we think through that, I am talking about, in one sense, a Google Drive or a Dropbox or a SharePoint or some other system in which you are organizing SOPs, organizing presentations, memos, copy that you might have, reports, what have you, all the different things that you can think about that belongs in that space. I think for when we specifically are talking about for project managers, you're going to want a place for your risk management tracker. You're going to want a place for presentations and for status reports and things like that. Now, when it comes to, someone might be saying, oh, well, what about the project management tool? Because we can do everything from there. And, that's where we're going to have our project status, and that's where everything's stored. Well, I'll tell you this, is that 9 times out of 10, you probably won't be with the same PM tool for the next 10 years, right? So I think it's really important that you think through, especially when you're talking about what products you're going to be creating, is you want to say, all right, what information can live outside of the tool? So I'm thinking to myself, if you're going to be creating executive level status reports, then you're going to want a place where you're going to want to organize that by month, year, date, or something like along those lines. If you have decision memos, if you have a report of some sort that you're running, there's so many different things, right? That are going on. If I wanted to flip this, and from the perspective of an online team, and you are working for a CEO, same concept, right? You'll want to really think through when it comes to, let's say it's an online coaching program. You're going to want a place for curriculum. You're going to want a place for different type of templates and recorded calls and everything. So you're going to really want to think through, what does that knowledge management repository look like for a business? Absolutely. Make whatever tools available work. The tool should not be limiting factor in effective communication and project management, which is very true. Those that are content creators and they're creating their media empires, this, my friends, is going to be something that's going to be critical for you in 2025. Yes, you, the content creator. Yes, you who are creating the reels, you're creating the YouTube videos, the podcast, you are creating products and services and things. You need a way that you have organized your content. It's locked up in some sort of vault. No, I'm just kidding. Well, maybe it is. But you want to make sure that you have your copy. You want to have your different graphics, your reels, your video, and you want to have them created in such a way where you can go back and repurpose, or just the fact that you just have it and you know where to go and get it. I think that's going to be super critical for you all in 2025. So I just wanted to give you all some variety. And I hope that helps for you all to understand too the various types of roles that you can have, which is the last point that I'll make when we talk about what we are looking forward to in terms of future proofing and skilling up for 2025. So, all right. So my next point within this is, and this is a good one, team communication. I just can't get rid of it because this is something that is constantly talked about. Miscommunication, improving communication. Let me tell you something. Creating an internal communications plan, which essentially just states how is it as a department, as a company, as a team, where are we going to disseminate information? How are we going to communicate information out to our employees and staff members? Where does information live? When does it get released? So that's one piece of it when we talk about internal communications. When we talk about project and team communication, what we're really talking about is like asynchronous communication, schedules. We're looking at where you go to find information. So, and who, in terms of stakeholders, who needs to have information and when they need to have it. So that is really project and task driven. When we think about team communication, like how are me and you relating to one another? How are we working together? And so that's different from an internal communications plan. Um, in a traditional way, right? That in that way, because we're looking at an intranet when we talk about a internal communications plan. That's one way. So an intranet for that essentially is a place where there are, HR policies. There's information on all hands meetings and things like that. There is pertinent information about things that are happening within the company. So you may want to have that for your team if it's large enough. Some of you all are managing 50, 60 some people. Maybe it makes sense to have a intranet so that everyone knows and everyone's on the same page. A different way, if you don't want to do a whole intranet thing, so sometimes there's newsletters that go out, and there's different ways. There's company podcasts. That is also a way in which you are disseminating key information out to team members and everything. And so that is something to consider. Maybe perhaps, you don't need all of that, right? An intranet. I always think about Coda when I think about an all-in-one place. Like last week we talked about project team hubs. That could just be a plain team hub where you have all your information relating to the projects, who's on the team, who they are, their contact information. You have information on resources, how to find information, SOPs, and that right there can be your particular quote unquote intranet, if that makes sense. So anyway, put any questions or comments in the chat. I think this is such a worthy discussion that we're having tonight. What's going on? Sister Connect and Teachy has joined. Very good. OG Track Training on Instagram. Exciting times. Centralization and ensuring everyone has access are the highest barriers. Simplification for technophobes is essential. So let's run that back. Centralization and ensuring everyone has access are the highest barriers. Let me tell you something. That is a key. That is so key for managing and remote teams, managing remote and hybrid teams. Why? Because access to technology can be a barrier, right? Like I don't have access to Microsoft blank, or I don't have access to that tool, or I don't have access to that software. People get real upset about that really quickly. So you really want to, as a PM, set yourself up for success by looking at what tools do you need and making sure that everybody has access and also the right training as well. Yeah, the technophobes, they need it simple because they'll get frustrated and then they'll talk about you. That's pretty much it. They will just talk about you. That's just it. That's just it. So we've talked about team communication, the importance of that. Team communication is always an ongoing issue. It's always something that you're always going to solve X for. And it's not about getting it right, but it's also about what system works and how you're going to work and rework the system. Oh, yeah. Lastly, meeting management. I always like to talk about meeting management within managing remote and hybrid teams because let's just face it, we just meet and we meet a lot. And this is not to say that meetings are not needed, but I'm always a huge proponent of let's really look at not utilizing meetings, and I have a reel about this, not utilizing meetings just for asking about a status in the task. Now, here's my rule of thumb. I just believe that if you are growing a team, formulating a team, and everybody is remote, I'm a huge believer that we need to meet. Like, we need to meet to hear each other. We need to meet to understand one another. We need to exchange ideas in real time. And I just think that just helps with the thought process. I think that this is what it means to learn people. I just feel sometimes we don't learn one another, right? We don't learn one another. We don't take the time to sit and to think and to hear that other person. And so I believe that takes a while. So I'm always going to be meet as much as you need to. Now, let's also double back on meet as much as you need to. You want to make sure that when you are meeting, especially if you're going to do a back to back, which I don't recommend, that you as the PM or the person that's leading out an effort have a plan, have a strategy for meeting, like have a goal in mind, have all the things, like the right people in the room, the right technology, make it efficient, make it effective. They just don't meet to meet. I've had a few, instances where, we've scheduled a meeting way out in advance, and or later on in some weeks, and in between that time you've worked on other things, and then you say to yourself, I'm preparing for a meeting and I don't know why we're here, right? So this is why it's important to be able to take notes. I'm a big proponent of everybody taking their own notes, but also with that, whoever is knighted as note taker extraordinaire, that person needs to have it in a central place. And so there's so many different ways that you can do that in terms of taking notes. I know ClickUp has their docs. I know that Asana is also a great way where they also have a feature like that. Now, let me make sure that I am not lying about that. I know that you can integrate Google Docs. Hold on one second. It's all fun and games. Okay. Build for clarity. You can for sure integrate Google Docs in there as well. Project documentation template. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I got to take that back, because I'm thinking I do not have a I definitely don't have a read on if Asana has Docs. I don't think so, but they have Google Docs integration. Don't waste people's time with meetings for the sake of the meeting. Canceling meetings is allowed and welcome. And this is also the cheat code for project managers in the beginning of the week. This is something I do. You go through your calendar and you just start deleting things that don't need to be on your calendar. You go through and reschedule meetings that are just not needed. Now, before you go and do that, you have to do a deep dive into your schedule, your tasks, and see what actually needs to be the focus of the week. Or you may have multiple focuses, which is fine, but that's how you get rid of meetings. And that's how you either send people to meetings, or you say, hey, I'm wondering if we can push this back to next week. And I think that's fair. I think it's normal. And I think it is important. So meeting management is super important, doing it in an organized way, having a whole process in it. When the ebook comes out, I will have some templates on like meeting notes and things. And then I have my own particular formula that I teach on that has, it's the prep, it's the mix, and there's a 3-phase process. And in with that, you'll see how you can effectively manage meetings. So listen, folks, it's a good time, these meetings. All right. Oh, we got 2 more to go. Emotional intelligence is our next one. And one of the things I love is I did a live stream earlier this year, and it was called How to Become an Emotionally Intelligent Project Manager. Such a good live stream. And so I think a couple things to call that out. When we talk about EI, emotional intelligence, we're talking about self-awareness, we're talking about awareness of others, awareness of self, and we're talking about in our environment. That's what we're talking about when we talk about emotional intelligence. And so it's how you're interacting with people, yourself, others. What are your responses? Are you self-aware? That's what people say. Are you self-aware? And people are like, what is that? What does that even mean? Am I am I self-aware? And so, and I think that goes into your habits, your behaviors, your emotions. Like, how are you able to understand emotions of yourself and of other people? And so that gets into self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills, just to name a few. But here are some of the 3 particular areas that we want to highlight. The foundation of project leadership is emotional intelligence. I always say this. This is one of my particular sayings. You can take it and run with it. But people are central to projects. People make projects and problems solve, and people make projects, and projects solves problems for people. I've always believed that. I've always believed that. That's my thing. I've always believed that. I think that there is something to how you're going to get the work done. You get it done by people. And typically you are solving a problem for people, and it's through the vehicle of a project. And that's why we need emotional intelligence. That's why it's needed now more than ever. We need that. We're evolving, and everything. And so that is something that is needed. Projects require dynamic and excellent leaders who can demonstrate emotional intelligence. What do I mean by that? What I mean by that is we went from being in the office, and we went from seeing each other every day. And then now we are, 4 years? Yeah, we're 4 years since, the whole world was turned upside down. And so now there's another level of leadership that's needed because people have changed, circumstances have changed. Lots of things have gone on in people's lives. Folks have lost people got sick. People are emerging as brand new people. We have more complex projects more than ever. And so it's not business as usual, people. It is not business as usual. And so I think to this particular point on emotional intelligence, we'll want to also focus on how emotional intelligence impacts project outcomes. What do I mean by this? So let me tell you something. Having a good self-awareness of your habits, your emotions, your triggers can make or break a project. I used to work with someone who, listen, she had such a dynamic personality, but she was not going to tolerate any form of disrespect. And she was going to tell you, she was going to run up on you. Okay. As the people say, she's going to run up on you. And so it's not that I am anti you calling the people out, but oftentimes it does not need to happen in a highly emotional state. Okay. In a highly emotional state. And so I think it is really important that you understand that the way in which you interact with people, and that is going to directly affect how you're going to get projects and tasks done. So I just remember, having to coach somebody through a situation. and it was a pop-off situation. And I said to myself, I said, you know what? This is interesting, right? Just to be in that particular space, but just talking to this person through about what was wrong with the way in which somebody said something, did something, how they weren't cooperative, and so everyone hears about being the bigger person, but it's not even just about being the bigger person, but it's about finding out what is exactly the root of the issue. And that, my friends, takes a little bit of patience, and it takes a little bit of strategy to say, what is it about this oil and water situation? Like, why is the oil in water there? You know what I'm saying? Project managers are low key project therapists. That's exactly correct, right? Bringing conflict resolution is a real thing. And so I say all that to say is that the popping off on people is not going to help you get the entire project in what needs to be done better. So oftentimes the aspect of developing your team members and developing as a team, which is another play that I talk about in the ebook that's coming out, is I talk about the importance of, you got to learn people. You got to do the corny things, and maybe that some people may say they are the virtual gatherings, the in-person gatherings. But on a serious note, you have to get to know people beyond the task. Okay. I'm talking to somebody right now. We're not even talking about work. We're talking about pickleball. Okay. Why? Because I just got into it, and I know that this other person is into it. And I'm like, hey, I got a paddle. Hey, I played 5 games on Monday, which I did. And it's just great. Like, just being able to talk beyond a task is it's beautiful. So think through that. I think that's something to think about. Lastly, personal development training. This is something I think that we don't talk about a lot. My good friend Aisha Thomas said, she's a leadership development coach. She says, we have plans for everything. We'll get training for everything. But do we have a plan for our personal development? And I think that is something, man, oh man, she struck a chord with me with that one, because that's true. We'll have a fitness plan. We'll have a plan for our week. But do we have a plan for growth? Growth. I know I have a PD goal, and so, and I too am looking to get certified in one of these assessment spaces. But, even with that, like, so let's look at what are the areas that I know that I want to lean into more, right? And so when you are also going from different levels of leadership and you are in different spaces, now you're more aware of what it means to, like, have boundaries. Hey, come on, somebody, because PMs can get run over. Just, I don't know what type of sound that is. But they can just get run over, right? I think it's important. So reading about boundaries, that's a big thing. What types of boundaries do I have? Am I going to respond to the email just because I have the phone right there? Am I going to do it? Or I'm going to say, relax and pick it up tomorrow. So these are the things we got to talk about, these things, right? I love that. Yes. Very, very good. What else? Okay, cool. I was just reading a quick message, and I think this is great. Shout out to the Instagram fan. Oh, thank you for that. She loves that sound. I love it. Okay. Okay, yes. Shout out to Zemeka. So let's see. Okay, lastly, folks. Okay, expanding beyond the traditional project management roles. This is my favorite because I just believe that, and let me tell you something. Okay, let me back it up because I just got really excited for a second. I just believe in, many people ask me this question, and the question is always, Ashley, I'm looking to get into the project management field. Okay. And I'm always like, that's interesting. And I often tell people, you're already doing it. You are already doing it. So when I talk with people about project management, because they're just like, you seem to know a lot about it. And I'm like, I do. And I think it's important to note that PMs are everywhere. You may not be called a PM. You could be called a chief of staff. You could be called a business analyst. You could be called a ooh, I love this one. A podcast producer. Hello. Because you are, or a manager, podcast manager. You are, my friend, a project manager. There's also something called creative project managers, where they work in agencies and things. A marketing manager. This is really, really good. What else? What else is out there? Because we're really talking about title, role, and skill set. We often get hung up on a business analyst is not a PM. Well, okay, well, we're gonna have a battle. I love it. Okay, we're gonna look up business analysts. We got a rebuttal. We got a rebuttal. A business analyst. A person who processes, interprets, and documents business processes, products, services, and software through analysis of data. I don't know. I'm going to push back on that, because if you are given a particular task or you're given an initiative, because I often think too that we interchange projects and tasks a lot. So when I talk about projects, I'm really talking about you are managing a thing, you are managing a particular you're managing a project from beginning to an end. They have multiple phases, you have tasks in between these phases, and you are executing and completing. That's what I'm talking about at a high level of a project. Now, when people are talking about tasks, they're really talking about like, what's that piece within the project that's like you just execute. That could be, I need to post to social media, I need to create an email, right? These are usually like one-offs that are within a particular segment of a phase of a project. Make sense? I think it does. So, okay, where were we? Business analyst. Okay. We're on the fence on that. But my point is that if you're in the entrepreneurship space, and this is where I see a lot of it, I see a lot of people asking for project managers, online business managers, virtual assistants. What's the other one? I think those are it. Online business manager, project manager. Yeah, there's also like fractional COO. What else is there? Virtual assistant. So there's many different things happening. And let's just take it from this perspective, right? And so when we think about roles, titles, and we talk about like function and duties, throw out the title, because we're just throwing out the title. So if people say, oh, operations manager, that's one. So when people say, I'm looking for a event project manager, and I just read this email from Rachel Rogers, Hello 7, or I think this was called Hello 7. She's looking for a project manager. Let me see if I have that email. I love reading those emails, because I'm always curious to see what people are looking for. And I'm just looking. What is this? Hello. Oh, no. Let's see. Rachel. I just saw it. Oh, no. I think I just lost it. I think it was like event project manager. I so love that. Oh, here we go. Calling all event pros. We are hiring an event project manager. Okay. This is the email, folks. Let's just dissect this. Are you the type who lives for a good checklist, thrives on timelines, and knows how to keep all the parts moving? Hello 7 is looking for an event project manager to help bring our biggest events to life. If you're a detail-driven, fun-loving project manager with a penchant for events and ready to make a big impact, read on. So I also have a question about this. For the event people, how come we're not looking for an event planner? or what's the difference between an event planner and an event project manager? This is just me thinking out loud. I'm not saying it's wrong. This is just now popping in my mind. So, okay, so about the role, get ready to dive into a fast-paced collaborative environment where every detail counts. Here's what you'll be doing. Timeline and task mastery. Own the event timeline. It's your baby. You'll manage and update timelines, track every deliverable in Notion, our project management system. That is actually what I do disagree. I do disagree with that. Notion is a task management note-taking tool. Is it a full-fledged project management tool? No. And I was born and raised on Microsoft projects, so these are my things about that. So can you use it? I think you can use it to track some form of a project. That's where I'll leave it. Okay, anyway, and keep Angela, our event director, informed on milestones. You'll be a proactive problem solver, tackling potential bottlenecks before they arise. Okay, so this is interesting. We have an event director and then an event project manager. So you need someone who is overseeing all events, strategy. I'm just making this up. I'm thinking this in my head. It's strategy. It is all the things. And you need a event project manager who's going to actually do the execution of the projects. Following. Okay. Vendor coordination extraordinaire. Be the go-to for vendors, from venue to transportation to accommodation. Okay. Logistics, communications bridge. You're the glue that keeps all the information in sync. All right. So we have that. And on-site leadership and setup, you'll lead venue walkthroughs, confirm layout, AV requirements. I actually had a role like this like years back, like when I first started working. I think they called me an operations assistant. But even in that, what did I do? I was responsible for like setting up different types of meetings for like our executive stakeholders. So I'm very familiar with this because I would have to coordinate different things and do AV. I don't know if I like that. I think back then I did not like it because I didn't know what I was doing. Let's be honest. When you don't know what you're doing, it's not fun. Now it's a different thing. Okay. Why this role is amazing. Okay, so this is interesting. This says this isn't your typical project manager role, which I always wonder, what do people actually think a typical project management role is? This is my question for Rachel Rogers and company. It's a chance to flex your creativity, refine processes, and be a part of a mission-driven team. If you're ready to make an impact, work with an amazing team, and bring unforgettable events, then we can't wait to meet you. Okay. Well, I mean, hey, they've really put themselves out there. So the 4 core qualities of an event project manager from their lens basically you know how to run and manage the tasks in the project. You're basically keeping people informed of what they need to do and when they need to do it. You're contacting vendors, you're keeping the key stakeholder, which is the event director, informed about everything. You're the bridge of communication. So you're doing everything from, you're working with Angela and the team, and you're making sure everybody knows what's going on. On-site leadership and setup. You're the POC of the POC. You're up at 3:00 in the morning at the venue. I don't know if you event pros are doing that, but I'm imagining. I'm imagining that. Exactly. Yeah. So that's what's going on, man. This was an interesting little time, right? Oh, here we are, 45 minutes. We better land this plane, people. We better land this plane. We're a little OT today, but this was fun. Event project manager. So what are we talking about here? We're talking about expanding beyond traditional PM roles. Do not think, those of you that are thinking, I need to dive into the PM space, you're already doing the work in some way, shape, or form. So you want to think about a couple things. A, what do I like to do? Where am I gifted and skilled at? And 2, or three, the third one is where do you envision yourself when it comes to the world of project management? And also too, like now, because now we're in 2024, diving into 2025, you got to know these softwares, you got to know these technologies. So, whatever you got to do, you got to, get yourself up on game on ClickUp, Asana, all these Coda, Smart Suite. Not that you have to know all of them at one time, but you got to get yourself on game and know these tools and how to utilize these tools. I've been using Smartsheet for about a year. Self-taught. I'm probably at a level 5.5. Okay. But you gotta dive into some of these tools and like how you're going to utilize it. So that's one aspect of it. Two, which I think is interesting about this event project manager role is, and also too, I think many people also don't even understand what project management is, or what a project manager does, right? And so I always say there's three particular tenets that we as project managers hold. We are leaders, we are strategists, and we're executors. So as leaders, what we're doing is we're leading the work. We're leading the work from initiation to execution. We are strategizing about the best ways that we approach the work. And then we're also executing and making sure that the work gets done. Can you do that in various different sectors? Absolutely. If you're a nonprofit executive, you're going to need a PM or someone that has PM-like qualities or skill sets to put on your programs, run your Giving Tuesday campaigns and all the likes. So that's all I got here today. This was great. This is great. And so I love it. Yes, thank you. I have the same view as the PM role is so misunderstood. You already know. You already know it. So, all right, y'all. This has been fun. Let me know in the comments, what did you like? What didn't you like? What would you also like for me to cover? Be sure to subscribe to my Substack. Content is there and more content is coming. And yeah, let me know in the comments, what did you like about it? And also too, what else would you like to see? Yeah, have some conversations with me. Oh, someone said, best of luck with your hustle. I have no idea why your stream ended up on my YouTube landing page. The algorithm works in mysterious ways. I love that. You better come through, algorithm. I'm gonna come through on somebody's algorithm. All right, y'all. Y'all have a good night, and we'll see you. we're gonna beef over titles. We probably are. I think we are. All right. I'll see you soon.